In this video, I'll show you how to build a Spring Boot 3 RESTful web service using only the AI tool ChatGPT. For this project, we'll write a RESTful web service with only one controller. Everything, including the main application class, the POM file, and even the directory structure, will be created by ChatGPT. We won't write a single line of code. Will it be able to generate an application that works? Has coding as we know it changed forever? Should you be looking for another job? Let's find out. This is the ChatGPT user interface. We'll type our request into the UI and watch as ChatGPT creates our project in a series of steps. For the first request, I'll say, show me the project structure for a Spring Boot 3 project with a REST controller and a package name of com.beginsecure.chatgpt. It responds by drawing a layout of the project structure we get if we use Spring Boot Initializer to generate our code. It named our project ChatGPT, which makes sense based on the package name we asked it to use. The directory structure is source main Java, then com.beginsecure.chatgpt. Notice it put the main application code in the right place in the tree and gave it a name that's pretty close to Spring conventions. Then it created a subdirectory called controller and put our controller in there, once again using a very reasonable naming convention. It added the resources directory and an application properties file, and even the pom.xml file that we'll need to build our application. Below this, it gives us a really nice description of each directory, file, and what the purpose is. This is all great, but let's have it generate the code to create this layout. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't want to type a single line of code or even a makedir command. So let's type in, what are the Linux commands to create this directory structure? And here we go. It gives us a list of the commands, starting with the makedir ChatGPT to create our project name. It CDs into that directory and then either creates a complete directory path or uses the touch command to create the files specified above. These files will be empty and just placeholders in the hierarchy. It did miss the pom.xml file, but that's okay. We'll get that worked out in just a moment. Once again, it gives us a nice description of the commands it generated. The next step is to generate our main application. To do that, we'll type in, create a main method for a Spring Boot 3 application and a class called ChatGPT Spring Boot application with the package name of com.beginsecure.chatgpt. I actually provided the same name of the file that it created above. I probably didn't have to be so precise in the name of the file. It likely would have known from the context what we wanted, and I could have probably left out the package name too, and it would have worked. Let me know in the comments below what you find when you play around with this. In a few moments, it creates the application class for our project. It even has the correct annotation. It invokes Spring application.run with the name of our class and passed in args. It has the correct package name and all the correct imports. Really impressive. And then it gives us the detailed explanation of what's going on. Although if you notice, it just stopped at some point and didn't finish with the explanation. I assume that's a capacity issue. If you have this issue in your projects, you can regenerate the response. For us, the code was created, which is what we're after, so let's move on. Next, we'll need to create our controller. So we'll say, create a REST controller for a Spring Boot 3 application in a class called, and let's go back up and look at the name of the class it used. We're going to call it ChatGPT controller with the package name of com.beginsecure.chatgpt. We get back the code generated for us once again. Notice it's in the controller package, which is correct. It's annotated with the REST controller, as well as with the get mapping annotation. The method it generates is basically a hello world method, but instead it sends back the message, hello from ChatGPT. Then once again, it writes out the description of everything. Okay, so what's left for our project? The pom.xml file, right? Let's create that next. Let's say, create a POM file for a Spring Boot 3 application that includes the web starter project and add a property for Java 17. I asked for the web starter project, which is necessary for the REST API calls. I played around with this before I shot the video, and I would sometimes get different results. I found the more specific I was, the better results I got, which makes total sense. And here comes the POM file. Notice it's got the correct XML namespace information. It uses the correct parent package, the Spring Boot starter. It uses version 3, which isn't the latest at this recording, but it's close enough. I played around with this a few times before I shot the video, and it sometimes gave me the wrong version, sometimes things that didn't even exist. So version information is something you'll want to pay attention to in the POM that gets generated. I've tried asking it about security-related matters for packages, and no luck so far on that, so you'll still need to be responsible for keeping up with your open source vulnerabilities. The GAB information was specified correctly. It added the property for Java 17 that we asked for, and includes the Spring Boot starter web that we asked for. It even added the Spring Boot Maven plugin, which is awesome, and will allow us to easily package our project into a runnable jar here in just a moment. Once again, there's a nice description of the elements in the POM, and it even adds some information about an optional plugin we might need. Okay, now the moment of truth. Will it work? Can we compile, package, and run this code? Let's switch gears and use what ChatGPT generated for us and see if we can build a working app. Let's scroll back up to the top. We'll go through each section of the code and copy the content. In the first section, there's nothing we can do with this content. It's not code. I used it just to see if ChatGPT could create the directory structure we needed. In the next section, though, is where it creates the commands we need to implement our structure. Let's scroll down to that section. Let's copy this code. Notice there's a nice copy button over in the right-hand corner. So let's copy that code. Got it. We'll be building and running our code on Ubuntu Linux 2204, but any version of Linux would work just fine. This should also work fine on a Mac. For Windows, the make dir commands won't work as is, but you can tweak them or ask ChatGPT to create you a set of commands just for Windows. The requirements for running this code will be Java 17 because that's what Spring Boot 3 requires, and a recent version of Maven. Check out the videos I have here on how you can install Maven on your platform. Let's open the terminal window. We'll do an ls to see that we're in the root directory. I'll be using the built-in text editor to paste the information I'm copying from ChatGPT. Let's copy in all the makedir, cd, and touch code here. So I could run each of these 9 commands one at a time on the command line, but that's annoying. It would be nice if we could just copy one command and paste all this code and have it run at once. But we can do that if I make one small change to the code here. I'll put semicolons after each command. This allows us to string together a bunch of commands on a Linux command line and run them at once. I'll be sure to ask ChatGPT to do that for me next time. So let's copy that, and then paste that string into the terminal window and hit enter. And notice it puts us in the ChatGPT directory as a result of the cd command. If we run ls, we see only the src directory. If we run the tree command, it will show us a picture of the layout, similar to what ChatGPT showed us earlier. If you don't have the tree command on your machine, find space dot will give you something similar. Keep in mind, the .java files and the properties files are all empty. There's no code in them. They were created with the touch command, which simply creates an empty file as a placeholder. All right, let's go back to ChatGPT, scroll down. Next, we want to copy the main application code that was generated for us. So let's copy that code and go back to our text editor and paste it in there and just give it a quick look. Let's see if there's anything that looks wrong. Actually, it looks perfect. I don't see any errors or missing annotations or weird copy artifacts like control characters. Let's cd into the source main java pom.beginsecure.chatgpt directory. If we run ls, we see our empty application files there. Let's open that with vi, and let's paste the code that we just copied over. And we'll right quit to save that. Next, let's go back to the ChatGPT window and scroll down. Here's the controller code. Let's copy this code and go back to Linux. Let's cd into the controller directory. Open the empty controller class file with vi. Let's paste the code we just copied. We'll give it a quick look in the text editor again. Looks good. Let's paste it into vi, right quit, and we're done with the controller. And now let's go back to ChatGPT and let's grab our POM that it generated. Back to Ubuntu. We'll change directories to the ChatGPT directory, the root of our project. There's no empty POM that was generated for us, which is fine. We'll use VI to create our pom.xml file. Let's paste the code we copied first and check it out. Looks fine. So let's go ahead and paste that into our VI section, then do a right quit and save that. If we run a tree command, we can see all the same files that we had before. We didn't put anything in the application.properties file, and that's fine for this simple application. Let's make some room, close our text editor, and expand our window just a bit. We're in the directory the pom file is located, so we can just go ahead and run maven package by entering mvn space package. I've already run this a few times and have the dependencies on this machine, so there wasn't much to do besides compile and package the new code that we added. The package command comes from the Spring Boot Maven plugin, so we'll package our app as a runnable jar in just one step. If we run the tree command and scroll up, we can see the ChatGPT 001 snapshot.jar file it created for us. Let's cd into the target directory and run ls. There it is. Now let's run it with java-jar and the name of the jar we just built. Our code starts up just like any other Spring Boot application. Let's expand our window a bit so we can see the log file. We can see it's running on port 8080, which is the default and what we would expect. Now let's open a browser. So we'll go to Firefox and open that up. And we're going to go to localhost:8080. And remember, in our code earlier, our endpoint was /ChatGPT. So let's add /ChatGPT as our API endpoint and press return. And there we have it. Our message, hello from ChatGPT. Let's think about this for a minute. We created a complete Spring Boot 3 application, all with no coding, using ChatGPT. Absolutely amazing. What a powerful tool, and I can't wait to explore what else it can do. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to help the channel grow and to be alerted when new content is released. Thanks for watching, and remember to always begin secure.